All right, so get this.
Okay.
You're curious about this game called Gungrave G.O.R.E,
Uh-huh.
but you haven't played any of the previous games in the series.
All right.
And now you're kind of curious, like, what is this game all about?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're looking at today.
Okay.
We're diving deep into Gungrave G.O.R.E.
Sounds good.
Our source is this YouTube review
Mm-hmm.
by the channel Reachpool.
Oh, cool.
The reviewer's name is Reach,
Okay.
and he does the whole review in Spanish.
Wow.
So we're going to be your translators
Awesome.
for this deep dive.
I'm excited.
So Reach goes into the game totally blind,
Okay.
just like someone who hasn't played the other games.
Interesting.
And you become this super-powered gunslinger named Grave.
Cool.
And it's like this crazy mix of third-person shooter
Okay.
and hack and slash.
Uh-huh.
But the game kind of just throws you into the action.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with zero backstory. And later on, Reach realizes that Gungrave G.O.R.E.
Yeah.
is actually the third game in the series.
Wow. So he's like missing a whole chunk of the story.
Yeah.
That's wild.
He straight up says he felt a little dumb not knowing what was going on.
I can imagine.
Like, imagine watching Return of the Jedi without seeing A New Hope or The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, you'd be totally lost.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's kind of what happened to Reach.
Oh, man.
He's playing through the game, and these key conversations, plot points, character relationships,
Yeah.
they just went completely over his head.
Oof.
So have you ever felt that way in a game?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like you're missing some crucial information.
Definitely.
It makes you wonder how much hand-holding a game should do,
That's a good point.
especially when it's part of a series.
Yeah.
Do sequels need to cater to newcomers?
Right.
Or can they just assume you've played the previous titles?
It's a tough question.
I mean, some games try to fill in the gaps
Yeah.
with like in-game summaries or flashbacks.
Yeah, I've seen that.
But others just kind of expect you to do your research.
Like, look things up online.
Yeah, or like listen to deep dives like this one.
Exactly.
But here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
Reach describes Gungrave G.O.R.E. as feeling like a game straight out of the early 2000s.
Oh, wow.
Like a total time capsule.
Seriously.
Even though it was released in 2022.
So it's a modern game, but with an old school feel.
That's exactly it.
Interesting.
The controls, the level design,
Yeah.
the core mechanics, it's all very retro. It's like stepping back in time.
I love that.
And you know what's crazy?
What?
This game, Gungrave G.O.R.E.,
Yeah.
it actually predates God of War and Bayonetta.
No way.
Seriously.
I had no idea.
Those games came out in like 2005 and 2009.
Yeah.
But the first Gungrave game, that was released in 2002.
So it was already doing the whole stylish action thing before it was cool?
Yeah. Reach even said the movement and gameplay felt similar to the original Devil May Cry.
Oh, wow. A classic.
It's like Gungrave was ahead of its time.
That's so cool.
So we have this game that's like a blast from the past.
Right.
And it's doing all this cool action stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But does it actually hold up?
Good question.
Well, Reach had some mixed feelings about the difficulty.
Oh.
He said easy mode was actually pretty challenging.
Okay.
But normal mode had these weird difficulty spikes.
Difficulty spikes.
Yeah.
That can be frustrating.
Totally.
So what was it about normal mode that was so tough?
Well, Reach said the enemies basically became bullet sponges.
Bullet sponges.
Yeah, like they just soak up tons of damage.
Oh, wow.
And it made Grave, who's supposed to be this badass,
Yeah, this powerful anti-hero.
Right, it made him feel super weak.
That's not good.
It's like the game was going against its own power fantasy.
Right.
You're supposed to feel awesome like you're mowing down these enemies.
Yeah.
But instead, you're just chipping away at their health bars.
Like it's a chore.
Exactly.
Not fun.
And it gets worse. Reach said the timed levels were brutal. Imagine you're swarmed by these bullet sponge enemies.
Yeah.
And you're on a timer.
Yikes.
He actually had to lower the difficulty just to get through them.
That's rough.
Timed levels can be fun,
Sure.
but they have to be balanced.
Exactly.
Otherwise, they just become frustrating.
Yeah, no one wants that.
And because of this, Reach actually theorized that this punishing difficulty might be because the game was originally meant to be an arcade title.
Whoa, hold on. What?
Yeah, like those old school coin-out machines.
Oh, I see what you mean.
You know, where they wanted you to keep pumping in quarters.
Yeah, yeah.
So he thought maybe some of that design philosophy might have carried over to Gungrave G.O.R.E.
Interesting theory.
Even though it's a console and PC game.
Right, not an arcade game anymore.
Makes you think, right?
It does.
Like, is this just a case of old school game design?
Yeah.
haunting a modern release?
I wonder.
Or is there something else going on?
We'll have to see.
It's mystery.
I'm intrigued. It's funny, though.
Yeah.
We talk about retro game design, and we usually think of, like, simplicity.
Okay.
But Reach actually pointed out some stuff in Gungrave G.O.R.E.
Okay.
that was maybe a little too basic.
Oh, really?
Even for a throwback game.
Like what?
Well, he talked about how the levels felt kind of empty.
Empty.
Yeah, like they were just there for you to shoot your way through.
Right.
No real substance.
Oh, I see.
Even compared them to theater sets.
Oh, wow.
Like you can just tell it's all fake. And exploring those levels,
Yeah.
there wasn't much reward for it.
Like, what do you mean?
Well, he was bummed that there weren't any hidden collectibles or unlockables or anything.
That's a shame. It felt like a missed opportunity.
So, like, add some depth.
Exactly.
And reward players who like to explore.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that was a design choice.
You think so?
Or maybe a budget thing.
Like, they had to focus on the core combat.
Right.
Instead of intricate environments.
It's possible.
Because Reach also mentioned
Yeah.
that the level design itself wasn't super inspired.
Oh.
They said there were lots of dead ends.
Oh, no.
And branching paths.
Yeah.
That didn't really lead anywhere.
That's annoying.
I know.
It's like they were trying to make it look complex, but without actually putting in the effort.
Right.
Like, what if those dead ends actually connected to something?
Like secret paths.
Yeah, or shortcuts.
That would be cool.
It could have added a whole strategic element.
Right,
Instead of just blasting through linear levels, you could use the environment to your advantage.
It's like flanking enemies.
Exactly.
Or setting up ambushes.
That would have been awesome.
I know, right?
But maybe that wasn't their focus.
True.
Maybe they wanted it to be more straightforward, like those classic arcade games.
Right, where it's just pure action. Which kind of brings us back to that whole arcade origins theory.
Yeah.
Reach felt like the difficulty, especially in those timed levels.
Yeah. Might have been intentional.
You think so?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
Like those old arcade machines, they were designed to eat your quarters.
Yeah, to keep you pumping in coins.
All right.
So they had to be challenging, sometimes unfairly.
Definitely.
So maybe some of that thinking carried over to Gungrave G.O.R.E.
That's an interesting thought.
Even though it's not an arcade game,
right?
It makes you wonder.
Yeah. Are we seeing those old design ideas?
From the arcade days.
Yeah, popping up in a modern game?
It's a trip.
Totally.
On the other hand,
yeah,
modern games also have difficulty settings.
True.
For a reason.
Yeah, so players can adjust the challenge.
Right, to their skill level.
Exactly.
But even with those options, Gungrave G.O.R.E. still has those difficulty spikes.
That Reach found so frustrating.
Yeah.
That is strange.
I think it might be a mix of things.
Like what?
Maybe the developers were trying to capture that old school arcade vibe.
Yeah.
But also appeal to modern gamers.
Who expect a certain level of challenge.
Exactly.
It's a balancing act for sure.
Right.
You want it to be hard enough
to keep people engaged, but not so hard that it's just frustrating.
Yeah. You don't want to alienate players.
And that brings us back to the core gameplay.
Oh.
Which is where Gungrave G.O.R.E. seems to really shine.
Despite all the other stuff.
Yeah. Even with the level design issues and the lack of exploration rewards, Reach still had fun.
Really?
He just couldn't resist.
What?
The thrill of blasting and slashing.
Through all those enemies.
Yeah.
Well, hey, sometimes that's all you need.
Right.
It's like comfort food.
Familiar and enjoyable.
Exactly.
Even if it's not fancy.
Sometimes you just want something simple.
Yeah.
Turn off your brain and have some fun.
And Gungrave G.O.R.E. delivers on that.
Lets you unleash your inner badass.
And just mow down hordes of enemies.
Exactly.
Reach actually called the game phenomenal.
Okay.
For creating this simple, addictive gameplay loop.
He liked that it wasn't too complicated.
Yeah. No convoluted stories or mechanics.
It's refreshing sometimes.
I know, right?
In a world of these huge open world games, it's nice to have something focused.
Yeah, just pure action.
It's like a palate cleanser.
And don't forget, the game is also pretty affordable.
Oh, yeah, that's a big plus.
Especially since it's on those subscription services.
Makes it more accessible.
For sure.
You can try it out.
Yeah, without spending a ton of money.
It's like having a library of games.
At your fingertips.
Exactly.
So we've talked about the retro feel, the difficulty, even those kind of empty levels.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
But the big question is...
Did Reach actually like the game?
Exactly.
After all that.
All the good and the bad.
Right.
So what's the verdict?
I'm curious, too.
Well, Reach kind of sums it up when he says,
Okay.
the game isn't boring. It isn't tedious. It's actually very interesting, comfortable.
Comfortable.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then he says,
Yeah.
despite all the negative things it has, at least for me, it hooked me a lot.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted to keep playing.
So he liked it.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
I know, right?
After all those criticisms.
I guess the core gameplay just really got to him.
Yeah, it must have been pretty strong.
Like sometimes you just want that pure action, that visceral thrill.
Just turn your brain off.
Exactly.
And have fun.
It's like comfort food.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right.
It makes sense.
It might not be fancy,
yeah,
but it's familiar and enjoyable.
Exactly.
And Gungrave G.O.R.E seems to nail that.
You get to be a total badass.
Yeah, just mow down waves of enemies.
Sounds satisfying.
Reach even called the game phenomenal.
Really?
For how it created this simple but addictive gameplay loop.
He appreciated that, huh?
Yeah, like it didn't try to be too complex. No crazy stories or mechanics.
Just straight up action.
Which is kind of refreshing these days.
I know, right?
With all these huge open world games.
Yeah, they can be overwhelming.
It's nice to have a game that's just focused.
Pure, simple fun.
Exactly.
And you know what else?
Good.
Reach also mentioned the price.
Oh, yeah. The game's pretty affordable.
Which is great.
Especially because it's on those subscription services.
Makes it even more accessible.
Totally.
Try it out.
Yeah, without breaking the bank.
It's like having a giant library of games.
Right at your fingertips.
I love that.
So even with its flaws.
Yeah. All those quirks we talked about.
Reach ultimately recommends Gungrave G.O.R.E.
But to a specific audience, right?
Yeah, for someone looking for a fun, mindless action game with a retro vibe.
Someone who doesn't mind a challenge.
Exactly.
And can overlook those rough edges.
Well said.
It might not be a masterpiece.
True.
But it has its own charm.
It really does.
It just goes to show that there's a game out there for everyone.
Yeah, you don't always need a perfect 10.
Sometimes those flawed games, they're the most memorable.
That's a great point.
And that wraps up
our deep dive into Gungrave G.O.R.E.
He covered it all, huh?
The good, the bad, the retro.
The challenging, the simple, the fun.
We hope this gave you a better idea
of what this game is all about.
And maybe even piqued your interest.
Maybe you'll give it a try.
You never know, you might love it.
Exactly.
But that's the beauty of gaming.
There's so much variety.
A game for every taste.
Whether it's a masterpiece,
or a hidden gem,
or even something in between.
So keep exploring.
Keep playing.
And keep diving deep
into this amazing world of games.
We'll catch you next time.
See you.